You've planted your garden, you've got plants in the ground, maybe they've been there a couple weeks now, and they're just kind of sitting there. Not dying, but definitely not growing. And that's one of the most frustrating spots to be in because you start wondering, did I do something wrong? Did I plant too early? Is it the soil? Do I need fertilizer? And the longer they sit there like that, the more tempting it is to start messing with things. But if you mess with the wrong thing, it could make the issue worse. So let's get into what could actually be happening and what to do about it. Plants don't grow from the top down. They grow from the bottom up. And when you first put something in the ground, the very first thing it's going to do is focus on roots. Because until that root system is established, the plant can't support new growth above the soil. So what happens is you plant it, and for the next week or so, it looks like nothing's happening. No new leaves, no real size change. It's just sitting there. But underneath the soil, those roots are spreading out into the surrounding soil, looking for water, finding nutrients, and building the foundation the plant is going to use later. And once that foundation is there, that's when you'll start to see the top growth take off. If the roots aren't established, the plant has no reason to grow. So a lot of times, what looks like a problem is just the plant doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. The next big reason your plants aren't growing, especially right now, especially in some northern climates, is the soil temperature. Because even if the air feels warm during the day, your soil can still be cold. And when the soil is cold, everything slows down. Roots don't grow quickly, they don't take up nutrients efficiently. This is especially true for warm season crops, tomatoes, peppers, and squash. Anything that really wants heat in the soil. You can have a healthy plant in good soil with nutrients available, but if the soil temperature isn't there yet, the plant's not going to take off. Now you can warm up the soil by adding something dark above it, like black fabric, black plastic. If you're growing in raised beds, they do warm up faster than in the ground. Or you can plant things next to a south-facing wall. Other than that, if roots are cold, the plant is slow every time. Now the next one, and this is where a lot of people go wrong, it's watering. Because when your plants aren't growing, the natural instinct is to try to help them. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to water more. But the problem is too much water can actually slow your plants down further. When the soil stays constantly wet, it fills up the air spaces in the soil, and roots don't need just water, they need oxygen too. So when those air pockets are gone, the roots can't grow properly. And even though you're trying to help the plant, you're actually creating conditions that make it harder for it to establish. So what you end up with is that same stalled out look. The plant isn't dying, but it's not thriving either. The goal isn't constantly wet soil. The goal is soil that gets watered thoroughly and then has time to drain and breathe and dry out a bit before the next watering. That balance between water and air is what allows roots to grow. Now, you can't tell if a plant needs water by looking at the top of the soil. So use the finger method. Stick your finger in the soil a couple of inches. If it's moist, don't water. If it feels dry, water. It's really that simple. Another reason your plants might not be growing is transplant shock. Anytime you move a plant from a small container into the garden, you're changing everything about its environment all at once. The roots go from a controlled potting mix into native soil. Moisture levels are different, the temperature is different, and the plant is having to adjust to all of that all at one time. So during that adjustment period, growth slows down or even stops sometimes. You might see a little bit of wilting during the day, or leaves that just sit there without changing, or even some of the lower leaves yellowing and possibly falling off. That's not the plant failing. That's the plant redirecting its energy into stabilizing itself. It's repairing roots, pushing new roots out into the surrounding soil, and figuring out how to pull water and nutrients in a completely new setup. And so the mistake people make here is trying to fix what they think is a problem. They'll water more, add fertilizer, or start changing multiple things at once. And that usually just adds more stress. What the plant actually needs in this moment is consistency. Consistent watering, stable conditions, and a little time. And in most cases, once the roots reestablish, the plant will flip from doing nothing to growing quickly almost all at once. Now, the next one is where a lot of people immediately go. It's nutrients. When plants aren't growing, the assumption is almost always that they need fertilizer. And while plants need nutrients, that's usually not the issue at this stage. If you planted properly and gave your plant some nutrition at planting time, they already have what they need to get started. Now, for me, that usually looks like mixing in a combination of crab and lobster shell along with kelp meal right when I plant. The crab and lobster shell has different sized particles, so you get both faster release and slower release over time. And the kelp meal brings in a really wide range of micronutrients. Now, we have these products in our online store, which I will link below. So with that in mind, the plant isn't starting off lacking anything, but early on, growth isn't limited by how much fertilizer is in the soil. It's limited by whether the plant can actually use it. And if the roots are still small, or the soil still feels cold, or watering isn't right, the plant isn't pulling in what's already there. So adding even more fertilizer at this stage usually doesn't fix the problem. It just adds another variable. What you want instead is to focus on the conditions that allow the plant to use what's already in the soil, because once that happens, that's when you'll see it start to take off. So if your garden looks like this right now, what should you actually do? First, give it a little time. If the plants have only been in the ground a week or two, there's a pretty good chance they're still establishing roots, and pushing that process usually slows things down instead of speeding it up. Second, dial in your watering. You don't want the soil staying constantly wet, but you also don't want it drying out completely. Water deeply and then let the soil breathe a bit before you water again. Use the finger method. That balance is what allows the roots to actually expand. Third, pay attention to your conditions, not just your inputs. If the soil is still cool, growth's going to be slow no matter what you add. As things warm up, you'll usually see plants shift from doing almost nothing to growing quickly. And finally, don't start stacking fixes. This is where a lot of people get into trouble. They add fertilizer, change watering, try something else, and now there's too many variables to know what's helping. If you keep things consistent and let the plant do what it's designed to do, it will almost always catch up. The one exception of all this is timing. If something just isn't taking off at all, it could be that it's not the right time of year for that crop. And since we're heading into May, I put together a video on exactly what you should be planting right now based on your area. I'll link that right up here if you want to check it out. And I'll see you guys next time.